here we are. I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next, the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am talking with vocalist Mark Wallace and lead guitarist Mike Flory of San Francisco death grind band Cartilage, who have recently put out their latest EP, Tales From The Entrails and Necrology, on the excellent Everlasting Spew Records. It's a beautiful sunny day outside, as you can see if you're watching this on video, so what better day to talk with some guys who make brutally gory, aesthetically gory, musically gory music, as we're doing, although this interview was recorded some time ago. I have recently come back from a trip to Australia. I'm still jet lagged, if not so sleep deprived as I was before, so I'm going to try and keep this introduction short. I enjoyed listening to this EP. It is suitably kind of harsh sounding, like there's a visceral tone to the music that I really appreciated. You know, there's a lot of death metal out there, there's a lot of extreme metal out there, but this one definitely grabbed me, and so I wanted to talk to the band, and I did, and this is the result of that. So one of the things that I got into with Mark and Mike, as well as talking about the music, was talking about their aesthetic and how they put things together on stage, because they do have a very gory stage setup. I'm probably going to have a picture or two in here that you can see them, the whole band soaked in blood for some promotional shots, and they do also like to do that on stage. So we had a fun time talking about what they do and how they make the blood. It's not really blood, but, you know, they talk about it, so it's not like I'm giving away some kind of magic circle secrets here. Anyway, I'm going to let them talk for themselves. I'm going to play you a snippet from one of the tracks from the latest EP, which I'll play in full after the interview. If you would like to go check out the EP, best place to go is to Bandcamp. You can buy a digital copy. You can get it on cassette. You can get it on CD. And yeah, you can go to the Everlasting Spew page on Bandcamp for that. If you want to check out other merch from the band, they've got t-shirts, they've got vinyl, they've got other formats of previous releases. You can go to their Bandcamp page. And if you want to follow the band in general and also see what they're doing with shows, they've got some shows coming up in North America, I believe. You can go to Instagram, where they're Cartilage_gore. On Facebook, I believe you will find them as Cartilage SF. On Twitter, they are Cartilage Gore, although I'm told that they rarely use that. And they are on TikTok, apparently, but I'm not on TikTok. So I guess, again, if you're on TikTok and if you type in Cartilage, if that doesn't do it for you, try SF or try Gore. I'm pretty sure they're going to pop up pretty quickly. And as soon as you see the guys covered in blood, you know you've got the right Cartilage. If you would like to check out what I'm doing musically, you can go to my website, tomosmansounds.com. If you want to follow me on whatever social media I'm on, you can find me at Tom Osman Sounds. Don't bother with Twitter because I'm very soon going to be off it, but I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. And I'm maybe going to go somewhere else, but I'm actually about to release a Substack piece about this whole topic. And that's that. So without further ado, Mark Wallace and Mike Flory of Cartilage, take it away. Tom, nice to meet you both.
What's going on,
Cool.
Tom? Mark?
Nice to meet you, dude.
Yeah, very cool to meet you.
Well,
yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for joining me. So obviously we're here partly to talk about your latest EP, Tales From The Entrails and Necrology, which I have been enjoying a lot. You know, one of the things I really appreciate, obviously you've got this aesthetic with the blood and the gore and the horror themes. And I think like the sound that you've got, you know, like the drums and the bass has got that element of like you feel like it's smashing your head in. And the guitars feel like they're slicing you up and the vocals feel like they're stabbing you. So I think like you've really managed to get a sound that fits the aesthetic.
Well, thank you. That's definitely the intention, you know, trying to evoke, a cheesy 80s horror flick sonically, you know?
Indeed. It's a cool thing to go for, and I think you do it well. And what you've also got as well, which is really cool, is you're on a really cool label, an Italian label, Everlasting Spew Records, who I really like. They've put out some records recently that I'm a big fan of. Is this the first time that you'd worked with them? I'm not sure if any of your previous releases came out with them.
Yeah, this is our first time working with them. And Giorgiano? Is it Giorgiano?
I can't
I
remember.
like, I see all the
Giorgio.
Giorgiano.
Yeah.
Make him sound hella Italian. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, we pitched them, we were just like, hey, we're homies with a band that they worked with, Organ Dealer. And we were like, hey, would you be interested in, getting this release out? And they were just super excited about it. So we kind of rolled with it. We saw like the roster of what they've done before and just kind of like made sense. So the fact that they were really excited about it, we're really excited about it. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, that's cool. And I was thinking as well, like, I think I saw an interview with you guys maybe a couple of years ago where one of you was saying that you feel like you get a better reception in Europe than in the US. Do you still feel that that's the case?
I feel that's still the same case. We have fewer fans in the US currently, only because we're kind of like in this weird section of like, we're not death metal enough, but we're not grindcore enough. We're not
Yeah.
heavy metal enough. We're just kind of like in this weird middle ground because we just like we're making what we want to make. And we have like the fans we do have in the US and around the world are like diehards though. Like they're all about it. Like they get it.
Yeah.
They get the cheesy gore. They get the cheesy like leather and spikes and like talk about serial killer shit and
Yeah.
ripping brains out of noses and shit. So yeah, the fans in the US who get it, like get it.
Yeah, I guess it's a tricky thing. It's like I interviewed this band a little while ago. I don't know if you know them, Grave Huffer. And they really
Great
like
name.
it is a super cool name, isn't it? They've got all these different elements, like they've got heavy metal, doom, sludge, grindcore elements. They have all this different stuff. And I got the impression from them that it is really difficult, like if they want to get booked for festivals, it's like people want to be able to put you in a box and go, oh, okay, it's a death metal festival. So we got death metal bands. And it's like, it's cool for fans who like something different if you've got your own unique sound, but maybe it can be difficult to market yourself when people are kind of like, we want this type of band or we want this type of band.
Yeah.
Totally. I do think our the whole visual aspect of the band does almost sort of help with that. Like maybe like it's a little bit hard to sonically describe, but I do think like the striking visual of like the classic heavy metal leather and the blood on top of it actually helps a lot in a weird way.
Yeah, I do appreciate your black leather aprons.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, thank you.
When did like I'm not quite sure how much the visual representation has evolved over the years because you've been going since 2014, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like how long did it take you to kind of come up with the sort of visual side of things that you wanted?
I think it started as soon as the band started, really. The inception of it in like 2013. I've had the band name since like 2008. It was dumb. I was like, oh, Cartilage sounds cool. Like, it could be like a gore death metal band or something. And so in 2013, Mike and his now wife, my sister, we were all kind of like talking about how much we love, Carcass, Dead Infection, Gore Rotted, and we're like, yo, starting a band like that would be so sick. And seeing a lot of the like old like Slayer videos and Priest videos where they have like the spikes and leather, we're like, oh, that's so cool too. But we want to be like, Exhumed. And like back in the day, they did the same thing, but like want to do it while covered in crap, just like blood and really lean into it. And also getting influence from bands like General Surgery, who still do it to this day, where they're covered in blood with like white, clothing and stuff. And we started doing that our like first few shows where we were wearing like white shirts so you could really see the blood.
Yeah.
And, I think the apron came way later. I used to wear overalls, what I called my gore overalls. And it kind of had this like backyard kind of like hick like slasher B movie kind of thing.
Yeah,
Think
like a kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of thing.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
totally.
Hatchet. It kind of had that vibe. Rhea used to, who's the other guitarist, she used to wear like a fake face mask thing, and she would rip it off in the middle of the set and like throw it on the ground. It looked like it like creeped people out. They're like, wait, what the hell? Oh, and I also used to pop out of a body bag. That was another cool thing.
I like
We
that.
used to
That's a cool
start
gimmick.
we used to start every set with all the other members carrying out Mark in the body bag inside. We had to be careful, like, to make sure it didn't rip every time we did it. And then we would set it in the middle of the stage, and then as soon as we started playing, he'd bust out of it. It was pretty great.
Well, I wanted to ask you, like, to that point, with having that kind of like dramatic stage setup, have you had any sort of mishaps over the years with like whether with blood or other liquids or other kind of like props that you wanted to use where things sort of went wrong or you had to style it out?
I got one. So this is like I think second time ever I've been extremely nervous on stage, and it was opening for Exhumed at the Oakland Metro. We forgot our blood at home. We realized we forgot the blood, and we're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? And like we're like panicking. And luckily, Dr. Filthy, their like mascot, he does this thing where he has like the severed head and he's got blood inside of it, and he kind of pours it over the crowd, less so on the band themselves, more so on you.
Mm.
And I think he heard like we forgot our blood, and he's like, oh yeah, you can use ours. And we're like, okay, sick. And little did we know at the time, I'm sure the recipes changed, but the recipe at the time was literally just Kool-Aid and water. So we had to put on this really shitty looking like very faint pink stuff on us, and it was sweet and sticky. So my microphone was sticky, everyone's hands were sticky while they were shredding.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that was kind of a little bit of a mishap.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only other one I could think of was when we toured Europe, we were trying to figure out like our fake blood situation. And I don't remember the exact concoction, Marky, but I think wasn't it like food thickener and like food dye, and then we use beets or something
That was
too?
okay. So there's this thing called it's a food thickener. It's for elderly people to kind of like thicken up more liquidy stuff to really get it down and be fibrous. They didn't have that in Europe when we were touring in 2019. Like, we were all over Germany. I think we hit Czech and Austria, but like we're a bunch of knuckleheads who don't know a second language. We only know, American English. So, well, our drummer Adam knows Spanish, but whatever. So we can't read the ingredients like, oh, we're looking for food dye, and no one knew what we were talking about because we're idiots. And yeah, I found this jar of beets that was being soaked in vinegar, and I didn't know it was vinegar. But I was like, oh yeah, beets are red, so you can crush them up and it'll look like blood. And sure enough, we started doing that. But after the first day of doing that, all of us started getting rashes and like really like itchy because of the vinegar staying on our skin.
Oh shit.
And by the time we ended the tour, all of us were just fucked up from it. Like
Yeah, it was pretty
rashes
bad.
all over the arms, on our like chest and like back. It was sick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, if you look like you're falling to pieces, you get that kind of zombie vibe going on. So as long as you don't actually drop down and pass out from some medical emergency, then the look could be kind of cool.
I mean, if my face was like melting during the performance, that would have been kind of sick.
Yeah. But yeah, like, on the topic of the language, don't be too hard on yourselves. I lived in Czech Republic for 5 years, and yeah, I can say almost nothing in Czech. So, Czech is pretty hard to learn from the small effort that I made. On the musical side of things, though, so if I've got this right, before Cartilage, you two were in a band. Like, I think all of you have been in a variety of different bands, but you two were in a band together, Septicemia, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me the story of how you two started making music together, and how did Septicemia become Cartilage?
Yeah, I mean, Marky and I have known each other since I was 16, just playing bands locally in San Francisco Bay Area. And Septicemia was a band I started with my friend from high school named AJ, which was like very groove based, kind of like brutal death metal. Also like pretty tongue in cheek as well, like Cartilage. Did not take ourselves very seriously, but we were kind of playing shows around for like maybe about a year or two, and then needed a vocalist, and we reached out to Marky because we're old friends, and I think Marky was looking for something like a little bit more on the brutal side and groovy side to join. I mean, does that sound right, Marky? Is that like
Yeah,
that's kind of how I remember it.
on the money.
But that band was also super fun too. Like we used to like take our shirts off and say we were like the Man of War of death metal. This is like
Which
super
we most
stupid,
certainly
but
were
it's super
not.
fun. Yeah, not at all. I think it was just because we were shirtless.
Yeah, which is kind of funny, because like I think there are very few bands that take themselves more seriously than Man of War.
Oh
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
And also, like, you touched on this before, because like I looked and saw the Wallace name and I thought, Mark, I reckon that you're Teresa's brother, but I didn't realize that, Mike, you're now also Teresa's husband, which is another cool dynamic. But for Mark, what was it like with you and Teresa growing up in terms of your like getting into music together, and when did you start making music together? Because did she join the band a bit later, or she was there from the start?
So Rhea, her nickname is Rhea, but she goes by Teresa also. But her and I obviously grew up together, brother and sister. Duh. But we grew up listening to the same stuff. She would find something cool, share it with me. I would find something cool, share it with her. And I think I was probably 14 and she was 11 when we started jamming, just the two of us, like covering songs in our room, being loud as fuck. And we decided to, in high school, it's a really cheesy story. Sophomore year of high school, my sister was still in 8th grade, but she would always come to my high school and visit because, same friends and everything. And I had a dream one night that I was like on stage, like playing a show with my friends, and everyone like, oh, Aaron, you were on the drums, Drewby, you were on guitar, Warren, you were on bass, Rhea, you were the rhythm guitarist, and I was doing vocals. It was like super cheesy, and I told everyone in the morning, and they were like, we should jam. Let's go to Aaron's place. His dad has a drum kit in the basement, so like we'll get it down. We'll just like jam. So everyone brought their stuff and like we started jamming. Everyone was playing. It just sounded like the inside of like a music store, like a Guitar Center. It like was playing anything together. It was just nonsense. And then Rhea and I
first band stuff.
Yeah.
Rhea and I took it a little more serious, and we found a drummer named Luis, and he actually was a competent musician. And it was a 3-piece at the time, and we started our first band in high school, and the rest is like history. We've been jamming for damn near over 20 years, which is insane to say.
Yeah, I start to feel old if I think like, oh yeah, how long ago was it that I started playing guitar? Like, it was over 30 years ago. Not that I'm like a shredder or anything like that, but it just makes me go like, oh shit, yeah, I'm not even in my 30s anymore.
Yeah.
So I know from some of your past releases, you've used little clips from horror movies as well. And on the latest release, there at the very beginning, you've got this this sample that I think I recognize. Is that from Nope?
No, good guess. So we actually made the entire sample ourselves, but that song
is really, really cool. I was so sure. Like, that makes sense because there were parts of it that I thought you must have made yourself because, like, you reference the band in it. But I was sure that you'd taken some of it from a movie.
So that the monkey sample is totally. I mean, I think Marky can speak to this. Is 100% reference to Nope, though, for sure. So like good ear, but the actual sound file itself, we just did in our like garage. Yeah, sorry to break the kayfabe.
That's pretty cool. So have you also done that in the past? Like I can't remember specifically, but I think it was on I think it was The Deader the Better. You had something similar, or I could be misremembering.
Yeah, we have a couple like horror movie music samples on that. Both I think at the beginning and at the end, and I wrote both of those as well. Yeah, so we basically like try to keep it in house. Like we do use a bunch of horror movie samples like live, but I think pretty much everything on the records, unless if I'm misremembering something, Marky, I think everything that's on the recorded stuff we've done ourselves.
Everything we've done except in the very beginning of the song on our new EP that's coming out March 20th. That beginning of the song, there's a little
March 14th
clip. Oh, a little clip that plays, and you can hear a monkey going crazy, and there's a
Yeah.
woman being like, "She ripped her face off. Bring a gun," or something like that. That is actually from a news, or I think it's like a police audio, because
Yeah,
it's
you're totally
literally
right.
about a case. I mean, Mike, you tell the story. You know more about it than I do.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of excuse me, I can't remember the name specifically of the chimp in question, but this is kind of like a famous news story. Maybe about 15 to 20 years ago,
I think I
about
know
like a
about this.
woman.
She ended up on Oprah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that 911 call. Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing we kind of like took from elsewhere.
Yeah.
Um, Everything else is made in house though.
Oh, that's a really cool insight. Yeah, that's interesting. So, like on the horror movie side, I was thinking to myself, like when I was trying to think back to like the origins of really gory horror movies for me. And like over the years, I've seen tons of stuff, but I was thinking like one of the earliest like really gory horror movies that I loved, which was also kind of funny, was Brain Dead, the Peter Jackson one with the with the lawnmower and the zombies. Like that was kind of like the pinnacle for me for a while. So like, what was it for you guys that really got you into
Uh,
this all like gory horror movies?
I think that specific movie like is almost the exact one we reference. We almost just say like if Brain Dead was a band. In America, it was Dead Alive, same movie, different title.
Okay.
But yeah, we would pretty much just say like if Dead Alive or Brain Dead was a band. I mean, there's tons more too, but that's definitely like I think the combo of like humor to gore that we're trying to do in our
Yeah.
band, if that makes sense. Because that movie's
Yeah.
so funny, but truly
Yeah.
grotesque.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's that great combination because, like, that final scene where he's in the house and he's literally slipping on entrails, and there's like a bit where I forget, like something comes down, and there's like a body gets ripped in half, and it's just like it's so over the top,
Yep.
but they manage to do it and be funny at the same time, which is a great combination.
Well, a track off of our last record, The Deader the Better, there's a track on there called Cellar Full of Stiffs, and that song is literally about a scene in Brain Dead or Dead Alive.
Yeah.
It's about the scene where all the undead fools come out of the cellar
Yeah.
full of stiffs. So yeah, if you read the lyrics, it's lyric for lyric, it's like just literally describing one of the like coolest scenes in horror where like they're just like decapitating the people at the party and like just skull busting, and you've seen the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the first song we actually wrote called El Necrocabra on the first record was originally called Sangaya. And like it was a total reference to it too. And then we just switched it at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that movie specifically is like pretty heavy in the DNA of the band, but also like films like Reanimator.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of like a ton. I guess just that general '80s B movie, sort of like transaggressive.
Splat
Yeah,
stick.
I guess what you spot. Yeah, there you go, splat stick or body horror stuff. The more,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
The John Carpenter's The Thing, The Fly, like all that body horror stuff is like hugely influential to every member in the band because we just love the over the top gore stuff, and we want to represent that as best as we can visually. At least on stage, you see us with all the blood, spikes, and leather. It's like, oh, this guy's gonna kill me. Like that's kind of sick, but it's also tongue in cheek because it's like here we are, throwing out the metal horns and being like, yo, what the fuck is up, San Francisco? I hope you ate your Wheaties because we're gonna kick your ass. And, everyone gets a good giggle out of it. It's
Yeah.
not all like Macho Man serious, like, oh, we got riffs, buddy. You're in for a ride. We got riffs. We're serious riffers. It's like, no, we're here to have fun. Like, it's entertainment. I mean, it's art, but it's entertaining.
Indeed. You can have both. And
Yeah.
like you were mentioning before, I think you were saying when you were playing with Exhumed that their thing was that they would like more spray the audience with blood. So like, do you also do that? Like, I interviewed a photographer a little while ago who gave me this great story about going to see and photograph Guar, and he was having like a little bit of like tension with this other photographer who was basically being a bit of a dick. and the other photographer didn't really know what gore was like. So this guy I was interviewing went away and basically like took most of his clothes off, was just down to his boxer shorts, and then went to take the pictures. Because then when Guar came on, they just covered everyone with blood, and this other photographer just got completely fucking soaked with their blood. So like, do you also kind of like, you know, make it interactive for the audience in that way, or it's more about what's on the stage?
For the longest time, it's been what's on the stage. I did this dick thing at the very first like inception of the band, like the first few shows. I used to chew up beats and I would kind of sit back, maybe some like red Gatorade. And as soon as I popped out of the body bag, the first lyric that came out of my mouth, I would at the same time spit at the crowd. So if you were in front, you basically just got a face full of chewed up beats, which looks like guts and vomit, and then maybe some like, I think I was drinking red smoothie, so like naked juice. So it just looked really gross. And I remember I did it on, we later became friends we played at a coffee shop in Redwood City, and he came up to me. He's like, "You really pissed me off because it got all in my eyes." And I was like, "I'm so sorry." He's like, "But it was like the coolest thing ever." So going forward this year, we're developing some like stage antics that's more interactive with the crowd. I'm not going to spoil exactly what, but yeah, once you see us live starting, I think late March, that's going to be our next shows coming up. We're going to have a little more like interactive stuff with the crowd.
That's cool. And in terms of the kind of like gore themed bands that you guys first got into when you were kids, like I was also thinking back to the stuff that I got into, and I think for me there's probably like Cannibal Corpse, you know, and the great cover art, and then also like, you know, reading the lyrics, which were just completely over the top, which is also funny because like when you see them being interviewed, most of the guys are like really, really nice, lovely guys, and they have these horrendous lyrics about the most horrible things you can imagine doing to people. I think with you guys, like Carcass were a big influence. So like who were kind of the big gore bands, whether it was like death metal or grindcore or whatever else that really like inspired you?
So Carcass is definitely number one, I would say, at least for me personally. Yeah, I think not even just, you know, the gore side of stuff, musically too, and I would say, you know, both kind of also like the more melodic and almost like rock and roll records, those as well, beyond just like the more gore records. And then I would say Cannibal Corpse for sure too, but almost more in like a, I don't know. I feel like if you're like a death metal kid, at least in America, when you're first discovering death metal, it's kind of like impossible not to be influenced or absorb Cannibal Corpse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that almost feels like more in like the core of, I guess, the musical influence that I'm not even like conscious of. If that makes sense. Where with
Carcass,
Carcass,
kind
it's
of
definitely
like Black Sabbath. Like you can't avoid Black Sabbath in pretty much all metal.
Totally, yeah. Like you're influenced by Black Sabbath, whether you realize it or not, or you're totally like conscious of it or not. I feel like Cannibal Corpse for sure is the same way. Like musically, if you're like playing in a death metal band, at least where we're from. But yeah, I would say with Carcass though, it is like I am listening to Carcass riffs, and I'm like, how do I like I don't know, like backwards engineer this Carcass riff so I can use it in a Cartilage song. And then also Exhumed is like a huge influence on us as well. I think that's like a shared favorite band of ours when we were kids too. But I think also like a lot of heavy metal stuff. Like we watch a lot of Iron Maiden and like Dio and Merciful Fate videos and take musical influence from it too. But then also like a lot of the stage antics and sort of the more visual part of it. So I feel like that's kind of all in there, as well as like a good healthy dose for me at least of like thrash, like Megadeth and some Slayer and stuff. So and
stuff.
Exodus. Yeah.
There's no need to be too like narrow about the stuff that you're into.
Totally, yeah.
But for Rhea and I specifically, it's one band when we were in high school called they're from the UK, called Gore Rotted. And that band single-handedly made Rhea and I want to do exactly what we're doing in Cartilage, because all their stuff was really tongue-in-cheek, gory death metal. Like their name alone, Gore Rotted, is just a play on words for garroting, like being garroted. They have a damn album called Only Tools and Corpses, which is a play on a show called Only Fools and Horses. I'm sure
Yep.
you,
I am
yeah, you
aware
look
of that
like
show,
you're
yeah.
familiar with that. So yeah,
Yeah.
they made an album called Only Tools and Corpses, and like, you know, her gash, I did slash, like it's all tongue in cheek, kind of fun lyrical stuff, and it never takes itself too serious. But man, the riffs and the drumming are, and the vocal delivery, like all of it was just there, and it was just like punishing. So
Yeah.
that's like a huge influence for Rhea and I growing up was gore rotted.
And in terms of the playing, like something I'm always interested with when I talk to musicians that play extreme music is how they got from starting out to getting to where they're playing now. So like Mike, you were talking about, you know, like trying to reverse engineer carcass riffs. Like what did you start out playing when you first picked up an instrument, and how did you get to the point where you're playing the more kind of like technical extreme metal?
Yeah, I think for me, like the interesting thing was I guess it was like somewhat like chronological to like how almost like metal developed. Like that was my actual exposure. So like the first stuff I really got into was stuff my dad listened to, which was like you know, like Led Zeppelin and kind of more bluesy guys as well, like that of that same ilk, like Eric Clapton, stuff like that, Cream. And then after that, I got into Black Sabbath kind of on my own. I also had like a grade school teacher who was like a punk and like kind of a metalhead, and he like recommended me stuff to listen to. Like you know, the first time I ever heard Iron Maiden, he like burned me a CD. But anyway, basically with that, that was around the same time I started picking up guitar. So I got into like early heavy metal stuff, and then I saw Black Sabbath with Rodney James Dio, Heaven and Hell in the U.S. I think in 2007 when I was at the end of middle school, which means I would have been about 12 or 13, and I saw Megadeth open for them,
Nice.
and my mind was like blown. And like the next week, I like bought 4 CDs at the record store and just like listened to Megadeth for like 6 months straight. And then that was kind of my intro into the more extreme styles. I got into just like the early days of Wikipedia, like just looking up like if I like Megadeth, what else should I listen to? And that's
Mm.
how I got into like Exodus and then like Higher X, all these kind of more underground or more cult like thrash bands, and then got into death metal from there, all while like learning this stuff on guitar while being exposed to it. So having my guitar there as I'm listening. And then, you know, just gradually went down the lines, like found like Creator, then I found Death, then I found, you know, Morbid Angel. And then that's pretty much how, you know, that's pretty much why I'm here today, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Morbid
Yeah.
Angel, I always forget how to pronounce his name, Trey Azagthoth. What an amazing guitarist. Like, his
Oh,
style is
insane.
crazy. Mark, I was just wondering, are you going to have to go back to work? Are you going to take us on to
I'm
work with
chilling.
you?
I just had this light turned itself off.
All right, okay, cool. What about for you as a vocalist, Mark? In fact, I
Oh
mean,
man.
were you playing instruments as well, or like did you always want to be a vocalist?
Oh, I mean, I was kind of like the talentless one among all the friends. Everyone played stuff except for me. So I was like, and no one else wanted to do vocals. So I was just like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So ended up just being the vocalist because no one else wanted to. And then I think it wasn't until like over 10, like 15 years later, I actually picked up drums. So like 4 years ago, I picked up drums, and now I'm playing in like some goofy, gory band called Post Nasal Drainage, and that's tight. And yeah, but vocalist all my life, mostly influenced by Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse, Trevor from the Black Dahlia Murder, hugely influenced by them growing up, and also the three vocalists in Gore Rotted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they had two standing vocalists, and then Wilson on bass, who screamed "Rest in peace." He did like the really high screeches. So I just like did vocal practice to those three bands specifically: Black Dahlia Murder, Cannibal Corpse, and Gore Rotted. Like just 2 hours a day after school because I was so determined to like you know try to like do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I remember I don't know if there've been multiple Cannibal Corpse documentaries, but there's kind of like this, you've probably both seen it as well. There's a Cannibal Corpse documentary where Corpse Grinder talks about when he joined the band, and like the first track that he's going to be doing, it just starts with this scream, and he's basically auditioning for the band, and he's like trying to do this take, and he's like, he just keeps fucking it up, and then he goes in front of the mirror, and he's just like, come on, this is it, this is your opportunity, and then he goes back, he nails it, and the rest is history. So it's kind of like interesting, I think, as a vocalist, when like, you're being kind of self-deprecating and saying you did it because no one else wanted to do it. But I think there can be that feeling of pressure where you're just like, well, everyone else is playing an instrument. I've got to like really like earn my place. I've got to stand out in some way. And there's obviously a lot of extreme vocalists out there. So you really want to make your mark.
And it was cool because growing up, luckily surrounded by a scene, which Mike was also in. That's how we even, created bands together. There was healthy competition. And I wouldn't even call it competition. It was just like really good, like kind of like friendly rivalry. So like I grew up with a friend of mine named Warren, who also was like in the same boat as me, like really wanted to play instruments, but just really didn't have the knack for it or like the discipline. But we would practice our asses off with vocals. And then I would run into other people in the scene who also were just like working really hard towards being a vocalist. And it was like very inspiring. And I was also lucky enough to live in apartments shared by a gentleman named Jacob Wilcox, who played in a killer band called Death I Am. 4 members live in Japan, and him himself as the vocalist lived in California. One of my favorite like melodic death metal bands of the time. And he taught me everything I know to this day of like sick vocal technique, diaphragm exercises, breathing techniques. Because funny enough, when I was emulating Gore Rotted's vocals, there's one vocalist that is considered a more oi kind of punk vocal.
Okay.
Where it's like it's just screaming like British accent, like driven kind of like aggression, like very like crust punk kind of like way.
Yeah.
And I was emulating that. So by proxy, I kind of was like doing a fake British accent while doing vocals. And Jacob came into the rehearsal space one day and was like, Mark, where are you from? Where did you grow up? And I'm like, Concord, California. He's like, have you ever been to the UK? I was like, no. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm just doing vocals, bro. He's like, stop that shit. Be yourself. Quit being a weirdo. Like, don't put an accent. It's kind of like when like, I don't know, like a Swedish band is like doing, aggressive vocals, and then suddenly they do their banter between songs. Like, oh, this guy's got like a thick Swedish accent. Like, would have thought. I had the like reverse effect where totally, American accent, and then suddenly doing vocals, it's like it sounds like kind of like oi crusty for some reason. Yeah, it was weird. But I owe a lot to Jacob Wilcox for like really getting me where I am today with like proper technique and how to really deliver it. And also a lot of stage stuff, like how to not be intimidated by hecklers and the crowd. So like being a front person of a band. So not just like vocally, but just like everything that's
having the presence.
Exactly.
I don't mean to talk Marky up, but he's insanely good at that. He's like maybe like I feel like the best bantered vocalist I've ever seen. Like not including like bands I've been in or my scene. I feel like across the board, like some of the best banter on stage. And the funny thing is, he doesn't remember it half the time. So I'll like relay it to him, like, dude, you said this, it was so funny. He's like, what are you talking about?
So, I got this like,
in the
selective memory thing.
Yeah.
There's something I wanted to ask you. And so when I went on Bandcamp and I was looking at the credits for the album, so you've listed the band and the roles as Skull Shouting, Wallace and Vomit, Bastard Slicer, Shrieco Gory, Rancid Reflux and Bone Fiddling, Reeking Gory, Skin Stretcher, Deadman Umon, Thumb Throttling, Fret Wrecker, Killman, Hamel Torture. So I thought to myself, right, let's see if I can figure out who is who. And I think I got like steered in the wrong way, because in the beginning, right, I thought to myself, okay, Mark has to be Skull Shouting. But then I thought, no, hang on a minute. You've got Shrieco Gory and you've got Reeking Gory. So that to me says that, Mark, you have to be Shrieco Gory, which made me think that Mike is Skull Shouting, Wallace and Vomit. But I probably got it all completely wrong. So who is who?
Other way around. Well, kind of, because Shrieking Gory, I think Shrieking Gory is Rhea.
See, we don't even know.
I'm pretty sure Shrieking Gory is
no,
Rhea.
Well, Reeking Gory is Rhea.
Okay, so I got
Gory's
that
supposed
one.
to be
I got
like
that one right. I got that one right.
Yeah, I'm Shrieco Gory. A nickname since I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay.
A nickname for me as a kid was like Miko, and then last name Flory. So I guess we're trying to do like a little, I guess play on words.
And
then Rhea,
yeah,
Rhea's taken my last name too, so that's why, because we're married. That's why she's Reeking Gory.
See, I had the right idea about the two same last names, but I didn't know the two of you are married, so I didn't have that insight to be able to get it. So Mark, you are Wallace and Vomit.
Yeah, my last name is Wallace. So Wallace and Gromit, LOL.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we came up with these just like maybe the night before we needed to send it all the info. Okay. And Mark, you were like, let's just come up with the dumbest things possible. So kudos to you, Tom, for actually being able to say that out loud, because I think that was only conceived, like written. Like, I don't know if the words have ever been spoken. So thank you for taking on the impossible task.
I was there at the start. So thinking about the forthcoming release, a couple of questions related to that. So I think I've seen that it's going to be coming out on CD and cassette. Obviously, there'll be digital copies as well if people want to get that from Bandcamp and download it. I think I saw some T-shirts as well. Like, I imagine when you guys are playing live, you're going to have copies, you're going to have various merch. What's going to be the best way for people to get hold of the album when it comes, the EP when it comes out?
So I think the best place to buy the EP itself is directly through Everlasting Spew, through their Bandcamp. And then I think in terms of merch, you can go to our Bandcamp as well. Yeah, so those would probably be the best places to pre-order it or grab it when it is released.
And then what about shows that you've got coming up in the forthcoming weeks and months? What have you got lined up?
We have a weekend kind of run we're doing up to Seattle at the end of March as a part of a fest. What was the name of the fest again, Marky?
Disemboweled God Fest in Seattle.
Very good.
Yeah, so if you're in
sounds like the right kind of place for you guys to be playing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. Definitely fits our brand, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And then also in April, we don't have it announced yet, but we'll be doing some touring in April as well.
Nice. So then on that point, in terms of like people keeping up with what's going on with the band, where is the best place for them to get news and updates on shows and anything else?
I think you can just visit Instagram if you're tech savvy with that social media platform. It's going to be Cartilage_gore on Instagram. Facebook, you just type in Cartilage Band. I'm pretty sure we'll show up. Based out of San Francisco, here in the Bay Area, California. We have like a Twitter that's super dead, but you can can go on Twitter. I know that situation. And yeah, I don't know. I just like, I'm the one who's supposed to be like manning it, and I keep forgetting it even exists. I'm just like, ugh. And I think we're actually trying to get a TikTok going, just because why not? Yep. I don't know what the @ is on there, Miko.
It's Cartilage Gore as well, I believe. Yeah.
Thanks. But yeah, those are like the main platforms you can follow on social media to, or just check with your local promoter and see if we're coming through.
Nice. Well, if you guys do make an appearance somewhere near to me, I don't know if you've got any plans to come to the UK, but I used to live in Germany, I used to live in Czech Republic, so I've been meaning to visit over there. So I don't know if if there's going to be like tours or festivals or whatever else, maybe I'll get the chance to see you guys playing in Europe.
Would love to come back.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Well, Mike and Mark, it was a great pleasure. Thank you for the music. Thank you for your time. And until next time, all the best.
Hell yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Tom.
It was my pleasure.